Hello, everybody. Happy Monday afternoon. Hope yours is going well. We've got another Seahawks video to get to today, but first we just hit 2,360 subscribers to the channel. Shout out to all the subscribers, and as always, special tip of the cap goes to the channel members, especially elite channel members HaWKxXAsYLuM, Brandon Mikel, Rip, Scott Todd, Hasher for MVP, VGK Tiger 75, and Salacious Crumb. Well, we still don't have an offensive coordinator in Seattle, and more candidates are starting to slip away. We saw Bevel sign with Jacksonville. We saw Anthony Lynn go to Detroit. We saw Joe Lombardi yesterday, or early this morning, go to the Chargers. So we're just going to keep on keeping on with candidates because this is, quite frankly, the most interesting thing happening with this team right now, and it's not particularly close. The good news is, today we're going to be looking at a candidate that not only has the team shown a lot of interest in the last couple days, but a candidate that I think a lot of people would be excited for, a candidate that I think a lot of people would want, a candidate who, if we got, people would have some optimism about our offense going forward. So, who are we going to be taking a look at today? That would be Ken Dorsey. You may remember him from probably the greatest college football team in the history of the NCAA, playing quarterback, being a two-time Heisman finalist. Yeah, he's had an interesting career. He did very little in the NFL, and now he's a coach. Excuse me. So, could Ken Dorsey be our next offensive coordinator? And if he is, what can we expect from him? That's basically the question we're going to try to answer here. I've gotten a lot of questions about Ken Dorsey the last couple days because we've been looking at him and we're obviously very interested. And with the way things are shaking out with him, with his season having just ended yesterday, I think it's very possible that we end up with him. So, Ken Dorsey. First of all, he's 39 years old, so he's relatively young. And again, this could be a scenario where you sign Ken Dorsey to be your offensive coordinator right now, and he's there for a few years, and then when Carroll hangs it up, maybe he becomes your head coach. If he does a good job, he could be your next head coach, and if he's a good head coach, boom, you're set for a long time. So, at 39 years old, and given his career arc so far, there is an opportunity for Dorsey to potentially do something special as a coach, and hopefully, if it does, it can happen here. All right, let's take a look at his resume. I think a lot of you guys know he was a quarterback. I remember him playing a little bit in the NFL. I think he was a 49er for a little bit. And then he became an advanced scout for, I think it was the Carolina Panthers for a couple years. And as an advanced scout, you don't really have any say in the team in terms of developing players and getting them to play well on game day. So I'm going to skip all that and go up to 2013. Because 2013 was the first year where he was actually a coach of some sort. He was the quarterback coach for the Panthers, and the Panthers this year were a very good team. They went 12-4. They scored 23 points a game, which was just below average, and their main quarterback was, of course, Cam Newton, who threw for 3,400 yards, 24 touchdowns, 13 picks, completion percentage of almost 62%, QB rating of about 89, and he made the Pro Bowl. Now, to talk about Cam Newton without talking about what he does with his legs would be very disingenuous, so I will be including his rushing stats here, because you can't tell the Cam Newton story without talking about this. 111 rushes, 585 yards, 6 touchdowns, 5.3 yards per carry. So this was one of Cam Newton's better years. It was Dorsey's first year as the QB coach, so this is pretty solid. Excuse me. Ooh. The next year, the team was a little worse, 7-8-1. They ended up making the playoffs and winning a playoff game, though. Offense was a tiny bit worse as well. They scored about 21 points a game, 19th in the league. Cam Newton threw for over 3,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. So a very similar season, just with a little more volume. 60% completion, which, as far as starting QBs in the NFL goes, pretty bad. And then a QB rating of 68. His work with his legs was very similar to the previous year. 111 rushes, 563 yards, 5 touchdowns, over 5 yards a carry, barely. And then we get to the exciting stuff. The next year, the Carolina Panthers go 15-1. and make the Super Bowl. They have the best offense in the league, over 31 points a game. Cam Newton throws for almost 3,900 yards, 35 touchdowns, 10 picks, 60% completion, QB rating of almost 100, and he wins MVP. Of course, these numbers don't tell the full story. You also have to look at his rushing totals. He ran for over 630 yards and 10 touchdowns, almost 5 yards per carry. So if you want to look at what Ken Dorsey has done in the NFL so far that's really impressive, this would be showcase number 1. The next year, the Panthers and Cam Newton fell off a cliff. We also saw a little bit of Derek Anderson this year. Panthers went 6-10. Their offense became average, 23 points a game, 15th. Their QBs collectively threw for almost 4,000 yards and 21 touchdowns, 19 interceptions. An embarrassing completion percentage, 54%, and a QB rating in total of 75. So, not looking so great. Cam, by the way, also had a much worse year in terms of running, only 90 rushes for 359 yards and 5 touchdowns. Not great. Ken Dorsey did come back the next year, however, and did some pretty good work fixing Cam Newton's game a little bit. And he had to work with Derek Anderson a little bit again because he started a few games this year. So the Panthers went 11-5. They scored 23 points a game, almost 12th. Cam Newton threw for 3,300 yards, 22 touchdowns, 16 picks, including Derek Anderson's stats in there. 58 completion percentage and a QB rating of just under 80. That, of course, doesn't include Cam Newton rushing for a pretty incredible 750 yards on the season and 6 touchdowns. So, all in all, it was one of Cam Newton's better years as a pro. He did a lot of great work with his legs, averaged almost 5.5 yards a carry. And at this point, Ken Dorsey left the Panthers and went down to college football to be an assistant director of athletics. Now, I'm not going to pretend that as an assistant director of athletics, his responsibilities were making the offense play good. But just for posterity's sake, I decided to include what he did this one year for Florida International. And we can see they actually had a very good and very balanced offense. The team went 9-4, very respectable. They scored 34.5 points a game, which was near the top quarter of college football. And they threw for 246 yards a game, and they ran for 177 yards per game. Let me simplify that a little bit. So it was a very good, very balanced offense, and at this point, Ken Dorsey had some pretty good stuff on his resume. But now we get to what he's done the last couple years. He came back to the NFL to become the QB coach for the Bills, and if you want to see something really enticing, look no further. Take a look at what the Bills got out of their quarterbacks from 2019 to 2020. This first year, the Bills, they're a good team. They go 10-6, but they have a bad offense. They score less than 20 points a game, and their QBs collectively, mostly Josh Allen, but a little bit of, I believe, Matt Barkley was in there as well. 3,500 yards, decent. 21 touchdowns, okay. 12 interceptions, workable. 58 completion percentage, not very good. And a QB rating of 82.8. Not very encouraging stuff here. Josh Allen did have a very productive season with his legs, very similar to the seasons that Cam Newton typically had. 500 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns, very, very encouraging stuff from Josh Allen with his legs. But it was this next year that has Ken Dorsey getting offensive coordinator buzz. And let's just take a look at it. Team, elite, 13-3. They make the AFC title game. 31.5 points a game almost. Second highest scoring offense in the NFL. And their quarterbacks collectively, again, mostly Josh Allen. I think there was a little bit of a backup quarterback in there as well, but nothing too meaningful. Almost 4,800 yards, almost 300 yards a game, 40 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, completion percentage skyrocketed, 10.5 points. Huge improvement here. Finally, Ken Dorsey gets a quarterback who completes a lot of his passes. QB rating of 108, and he made the Pro Bowl. And if there was an All-Pro third team, then Josh Allen probably would have made it as All-Pro third team. He was the third best QB in the league this year. So incredible improvement for Josh Allen. His QB rating improved almost 25 points. And he continued to do things with his legs. 420 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns, over 4 yards a carry, solid. And Yeah, that's kind of a recurring theme with quarterbacks that Ken Dorsey works with, which is interesting for us because we have a quarterback who has traditionally done things like that as well. So, that is Ken Dorsey's resume. That is everything he has done so far as a coach in football. He has overseen the MVP season from Cam Newton as well as two other good seasons from Cam. He's overseen Josh Allen going from a bottom five quarterback to a top five quarterback. And look, that alone makes you think that this guy may very well be the next great offensive mind because as a quarterback coach, you would think that he understands the things that need to be understood about NFL offense. And the fact that he was part of the coaching staff behind the Bills offense this year that led the league in passing attempts and led the league in pass percentage tells me that he's got a lot of this stuff pretty well figured out. With that in mind, let's go to the report card. First, feasibility. I say 8 out of 10. We would love to have him, I'm sure, because he's a credible and accomplished quarterback coach. And him going from QB coach in Buffalo to offensive coordinator here would be a promotion. The issue is, and the reason why this is not a 10 out of 10, would be if Brian DeBole leaves the Bills this offseason, which is very likely, Ken Dorsey can get that same promotion in Buffalo. He can just stay in Buffalo and probably become their offensive coordinator. Now, it's possible that he won't have as many responsibilities because they have Sean McDermott in place, but he could get an offensive coordinator position just by staying in Buffalo, and he may very well want to do that. So it might be hard to get him even if we want him, but I think for the most part it would make a lot of sense why both sides would want to do this. Fit with Pete Carroll is a little hard to judge, but I said 4 out of 10. His only experience is as a quarterback coach in the NFL. He's only ever been a quarterback coach. Now, in Carolina, he was a QB coach for teams that ran the ball a lot and ran the ball quite well, partially because they had a quarterback who ran the ball well. But I don't think that's exactly what Pete Carroll has in mind with his next offensive coordinator. I think he wants somebody who's going to be a little more open to his ideas of NFL offense. So I don't think this is a tremendous fit with Carroll. I will say the fact that Dorsey has always worked with quarterbacks who run the ball for, 400 to 600 yards a season is encouraging because we know Carroll likes that, and we know that's what we have right now with Wilson. Despite the fact that he was very slow last season, he still ran for 500 yards. So I think that's a good sign. Fit with the modern NFL, I gave him a 9 out of 10. The only thing that holds him back from being a 10 out of 10 is he hasn't been an offensive coordinator before, and it's not like he's from the Andy Reid tree, so we can't be 100% sure, but all we know is that Ken Dorsey was the QB coach when Cam Newton won MVP. He was the QB coach when Josh Allen went from a bottom 5 starting QB to a top 5 starting QB. And all that can be said is that he clearly understands what it takes. The Bills, like I already said, had an incredibly high pass percentage last season. So he understands some of this. And I know he's not the play caller, but he was around a play caller who did understand that. And look at the incredible results they had. So I would say 9 out of 10. My overall score for Ken Dorsey would be a 9 out of 10. The only thing I can say about Dorsey is that Cam Newton did not have good completion percentages at all when Dorsey was his quarterback coach. And that's relevant because the year after Dorsey left Carolina to go to Florida International, Cam Newton's completion percentage went through the roof. I think that next year he had a well over 65% completion percentage. So as soon as Dorsey left, Newton became a much higher percentage passer. Other than that, this is an amazing resume, and the Josh Allen reformation alone is compelling. So, yeah, 9 out of 10. He's one of the best candidates I've looked at so far. He's young, he's exciting, there's upside, and this would be one of the things that would get me back on board with this offense and possibly saving this current regime. So, with that, I'm going to get out of here. Peace out, go Hawks. Streams later tonight, we can talk about this. Hopefully, by tomorrow, we have an offensive coordinator. If not, I will continue to make these videos, but we're getting to the point where it's getting a little suspicious that we can't sign anybody. But hey, Ken Dorsey, make it happen. That's what I say. Peace.